Without further ado, I want to welcome Tejas to the DxMentorship session. And Tejas, the stage is yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks. Thanks. That's so nice to be welcomed here, and I appreciate all the emojis and claps in the chat. Yeah, so we have 45 minutes or so together, and I want this to be for you. I really want this to be for you. So and that's it's called DX mentorship, and I think mentorship doesn't mean it's just me monologuing for 45 minutes and then goodbye and then whatever, right? And so I'm happy to talk a little bit, but I really want to hear from you, your questions, and to serve you where you are. To start with, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page by understanding AI specifically. And we can talk, I think, maybe together about developer relations and what that is, because I'm assuming that many of you have a background in developer relations. That's why you're here. But AI is somewhat newer. AI is definitely newer than developer relations, right? And so with that, let me just start by defining what AI is and what AI engineering is. And for this, I'm just going to use this great article by my friend Sean titled Rise of the AI Engineer. If you haven't read this, this is where you start if you want to start using AI well, and even just understanding what AI is. And in it, he talks about where AI engineering lies, and this is so important. This graphic is so important because on the left you've got data and research, machine learning research. This is like academic stuff for people with PhDs, and machine learning engineers and data scientists. And this is all like Python people who train models and do inference and stuff. And then you've got this big line down the middle, which is the API. And in front of the API, you have the AI engineer. This is really, really, really important that this is where AI is. And then full stack, it, of course, composes AI because full AI is just a part of your stack. Ideally, you have something like Postgres on the back end, Express in the API, React in the front end, and AI is somewhere there as part of your stack. That's literally a stack, okay? This is very, very important just to start our discussion. And we can have confidence in this because of this quote here, which says in numbers, there's probably going to be more AI engineers than machine learning engineers or large language model engineers. And one can be quite successful in this role without ever training anything. Meaning you don't need to know Python. You don't need to know any of this machine learning stuff to do AI. They are separate. They're very separate. And the person saying this, Andre Karpathy, is the co-founder of OpenAI. Okay, so like he's the brains behind ChatGPT. And if he says this, then it's true because he's really an authority here. So with that, that's what AI engineering is. Let's talk a little bit about what DevRel is, because this is really DevRel meets AI. And then I'm happy to take your questions based on everything I've said. DevRel, developer relations, is exactly what it sounds like. It's cultivating and nourishing and creating high quality relationships with developers. The motivations for this really depend on the organization and the company. Some companies say, hey, go have a great relationship with James Q. Quick so then we can ask him for favors. If you want to do it like that, you can, but I don't necessarily run DevRel organizations like that. For me, it's about a higher purpose than just profit and favors. But ultimately, that's what it is, right? Similarly, you can have, outside of developer relations, you can have human relations where maybe you have a wife or a husband, or maybe you're dating. These are also relationships, and those relationships typically don't work if they're conditional, and they don't work if you're trying to get something from a person, and it doesn't work if you're just, I want to be nice to you so then I can like get free coffee. It just doesn't. And so you need to take all the things you know about high quality relationships and apply them to developers. And this is a problem because, okay, but that doesn't monetize immediately, right? That doesn't immediately drive profits up for the business. And so you've got to make sure that your company is on the same page as you are about this. And they may want to get a lot of profit from relationships, but that's not, no relationship in the world works that way, where you meet someone, you have no rapport, and suddenly they just give you profit, unless it's an emergency, or unless your product is so great that they don't even need a relationship, they just give you that. But the whole point of relationships is that they take time. They take time before anything happens. And so I think that's very important. So what is DevRel? It's just having high quality relationships with developers such that at some unknown point in the future, there may be value you get from it, or maybe not. How does DevRel then give you value if not immediate profit? It gives you value through feedback. If you listen closely, and this is one of the key skills for DevRel, is listening closely. If you listen closely, again, good relationships, if you're in a romantic one or a professional one, any relationship, listening is a huge part of it. If you listen to developers well, then immediate value you can get from DevRel is feedback. They'll tell you what they think about your product. Is it a good product? Is it a bad product? Do they change the branding? Do they change the messaging, etc.? You also get value from them if your product is truly resonating with them. If the feedback is almost always positive, then they themselves will go be your advocates. They will go tell people, hey, I want to go use bolt.new because it's a great tool. I used it. It was great success. Those are two ways that you can get high quality value immediately from DevRel. And if you're not getting those immediately from DevRel, it's a red flag. It means you're doing something wrong. If DevRel within the first 1 month isn't getting you any feedback, then you need to rethink your DevRel strategy. Okay, so that's what DevRel is. One final thing I'll say, and then I want to open it up for discussion and questions, is Apple, Dell, HP, IBM, any company really that has customers has customer relations. And the difference between customer relations and developer relations is that your customers are developers. But developer relations really is the same as customer relations, except your customers are developers. And so take everything you know about customer relations, support, enablement, sending customers like gifts, like, hey, we hope you like the new, like all of customer relations is translatable to DevRel, okay? And every company on earth from like literally decades ago has had customer relations, because if you have a good quality relationship with your customers, then your customers will like you and they'll buy more of your stuff, but also they'll recommend you to everyone else. Like Tupperware parties. Anyone remember these? I don't know if you even had these, because there's a variety of different people here. But back in the day, a long time ago, there were these things called Tupperware parties, which was exactly what it sounds like. Tupperware is a brand that makes like boxes that you can put food in and package up and give to your friends and stuff. And they would have Tupperware. They started this. It was like a marketing campaign where like someone, like usually a mom, because back in those days, moms used to just have the freedom to be at home without having to work to survive. Moms would just like cook a bunch of food and have Tupperware parties. So they would invite all their friends and they would just have these boxes, these plastic boxes. And they'd be like, check out my boxes. How cool, boxes. And then they would like get a bunch of boxes for free. And then they would like recursively have more Tupperware parties. This was like customer relations done very well, or DevRel done very well. If we translate this to DevRel, it would be like, hey, here's an application that we made. Use it for free. ChatGPT is a great example of this, right? ChatGPT is free. And it's like, use this and generate some code. Wow, it's great. And then you bring all your friends. You're like, oh, check this out, man. It makes code. Wow. That's similar Tupperware party vibes, but for developers, right? And so that is, I think, just a high-level overview of what is AI engineering and what is DevRel. And together we can talk about maybe the crossover between these, but I've been talking now for like 15 minutes. I want to pause and take your questions and hear from you.
Thank you so much, Tejas. Everyone, remember to put the question in the chat if you don't mind, or if you don't want to unmute and ask. Otherwise, you can just raise your hand and give us all the questions. Fatima, you can go.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tejas. Nice to have you here. I do listen to your podcast and it keeps me company, like when I'm working out or when I'm doing chores. So I appreciate your podcasts and your content. So you mentioned some things that resonated with me in terms of customer relations and sort of support or dev support. So in my mind, DX is UX. And I wanted to know what your thoughts are in regards to that. So where I'm standing from, if you're a front-end person and you're concerned with UX, the same kind of thoughts would translate over to DX, because this time your user is a developer. And I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it sets us up nicely to also explore how AI can change this. Thank you, Fatima, for the question. And again, just to echo my friend Kenny, just if you have questions, drop them in the chat or raise your hand. Actually, I would prefer if you raise your hand and actually talk to me like a human being. The question about UX and DX is a good one. And absolutely, I think some would say, those who write a lot of code, they would compare JavaScript and TypeScript. They would say JavaScript is a subset of TypeScript, or TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. And superset meaning it's JavaScript plus plus. UX is, as we know, it's the experience of a user. Like, for example, we're all on Google Meet, and there's the mute button, the video button, all of this. A superset of UX could be DX, where it's the basic user experience plus extra affordances for developers. That's in the case, I think that's actually more true than DX is UX, because UX applies to everybody, including my mother. But my mother's not a developer, so DX doesn't apply to her, but UX does. Does that make sense? So UX is sort of universal, and DX is a superset of that. It's like the universal principles of UX plus a little bit more. How does AI tie into this? And so I think that's I hope that's clear. So for example, if we're talking about like a database, the UX of the database is, do I have to write SQL, or can I click and drag like a table, like a spreadsheet style UI? That's a UX question. But a DX question is, okay, what SDKs do you have available? What TypeScript or Java or Rust clients do you have available? Do you have HTTP2 compatible? All of that is DX. And so the UX is more like for any user, and the DX is what APIs do you have specifically for developers? So it is UX plus specific for developers. About the topic of AI. So I had a long conversation, like a 2-hour conversation with Kent C. Dodds yesterday. And this will be a podcast episode shipping this Monday. Thank you, Fatima, for listening to the podcast. I don't mind that you do it while you're working out. And it's a very deep dive on, basically, like, we start by me asking Kent, like, you're a React guy. Why are you doing AI? You've been so active in React. Why AI? Why did you switch? Is it just because you're chasing hype? And he said, no, it's because I don't like React is just an implementation detail of UX. And Kent said, I care about UX the most. And AI is changing UX. Okay, so you might be asking, how is it doing that? Well, if we think about just UX, what is the UX of a website or a web app? Like Google Meet. We come on Google Meet and we look at all these buttons and we click on them. But this is fundamentally just a web page. And the web page is UX. Does that make sense? With AI, we don't need web pages anymore to have UX, right? You can just like type text in natural language to ChatGPT and it will do the work for you. It will respond to you. Similar, if you use a voice interface, you don't even need a screen. Imagine you don't even need a screen, you just need a microphone. And you just say things. Make me an app that can track my fitness. You say this with your mouth. Make me an app that can track my fitness, and a fitness app, that's a UX thing, right? You could even say, I just ate jollof rice and stew. And you can just say that, and your fitness application will make a note of that. So the interface is no longer a screen and a website. It's just voice or text. And so UX shifts with AI. UX is no longer React dependent. UX can be voice dependent and so on. So now if we tie it back to DevRel, developer experience, that's the intersection. Is if you're trying to create good DX, which is an evolution of UX, you need to meet developers where they are. Where are developers? Are developers coding with voice? Not yet, right? But are developers coding with tools like V0, Lovable, Cursor? Yes. And so it's very important to get on these tools. I don't know if you have experience with these tools. If you don't, I highly recommend just download Cursor. It's free, and you can use that just to understand the whole movement of vibe coding, and that's where developers are. So if you want to create great DX at the intersection of AI, you would look into vibe coding or Bolt or V0. Okay, there's more I can say here. The developers are also taking advantage of a new protocol called MCP, or Model Context Protocol. Leave an emoji reaction if you know what this is, or if you heard it on my podcast. But MCP, or Model Context Protocol, is a standard server-client protocol where AI applications can do more than just talk. They can actually take actions. Developers are there. And Fatima, your question about UI and UX and DX, this is fundamentally different. The DX is here's an example. I created a Model Context Protocol server for my database. and I'll show you a demo if you want. I'll open it up in a minute. But my company where I work, we make a database, and you talk about the UX of the database. Okay, there's a web UI, and you can like look at a spreadsheet and look at all your rows and columns and all your data. Okay, what's the UX of finding the highest performing employee in my employee database? Well, I click here and I click on employees, and then I filter or I sort or I do something in the user interface. What's the DX of this? Well, I use the TypeScript client, or I write SQL or a similar language, and I say select from employees where deals closed is greater than 100, something like this. I write SQL. What's the new DX influenced by AI? That's the question. And the new DX influenced by AI doesn't require a graphical user interface anymore. It doesn't require like some React app. But over model context protocol, I can just talk to Cursor or Claude or ChatGPT, and I can just say, get me the top performing employees in my company. That's it. I either say this with my mouth or I type a prompt. I say, get me the top performing employees, and it over model context protocol will go talk to my database, will construct the SQL query itself, the SQL query. It will automatically do the query, and it will give me back the data. Now, this is very powerful because I said, get me back the highest performing employees. What does that mean? Does it mean salespeople who close the most deals? Does it mean engineers who wrote the most code, shipped the most features? Who knows? What is highest performing? So the AI model will guess, and then it will get me the data. Or if it won't guess, it will just ask me in plain language, like, hey, what do you mean by highest performing? And then I just say it. I say, oh, no, I mean the engineers who wrote the most code. And then it will get me back that. I'm not clicking on a screen anymore. Does this make sense? I'm not doing React. There is no user interface the way we think of user interfaces. The interface is now either my voice or my text. And this is where developers are with MCP. And this is how we do DevRel at the intersection of AI and UI to create DX, which is a superset of UX. But this is like the future DX. Yeah, this is where it's going. I'll finish with this, and then I'll take more questions. Again, your reminder to put questions in the chat or raise your hand. Kent Dodds, I don't know if I fully agree with this, but Kent C. Dodds said yesterday, and he'll say on Monday on the podcast, there's not going to be any more websites. Like, the web just doesn't matter. We're not going to go on, like, type, like, go to google.com or go to, like, flights.google.com to book tickets, or no. He says the MCP is the future, where we do everything through AI assistance. You just give it a prompt, and over model context protocol, the AI assistant goes browse the web, does whatever. Like, we don't do that. That's old school nowadays. And so if that's the case, then MCP is the way. In fact, if you're scared of AI taking your job or something like this, then it's really good to invest time in learning about model context protocol and implementing some MCP servers yourself. Okay, so I hope, Fatima, that answers your question in a good amount of detail. I'm happy to take more questions either in the chat or raise your hand.
Yes, that answers my question. Thank you so much.
Great. Adatola says, where do you see the biggest opportunities for DevRel in AI tooling, infra, or open source, etc.? It's a good question. I think actually tooling, and let me elaborate on this, because so many people got jobs at Meta early in the early React days by creating like random open source stuff in the React ecosystem. And then Meta, even me, like I interviewed with Meta a lot because I just was really active in the React ecosystem, making random stuff. Thank you, Kenny. And so that's I think the biggest opportunities in DevRel and AI is just go make MCP servers. For example, there is no Gmail MCP server. That would be super useful. Can you imagine, like, you go to ChatGPT, you're like, hey, what are my emails today? You just say that, and it's like, here's your emails. What? Crazy. And then you say, okay, but which emails are urgent? And then it will just tell you, or which emails should I ignore? What should I, like, you just talk, man. You don't need any. And so make a Gmail MCP server, make it open source, and that should give you some leverage in an interview with Google to get a job at Google. You know what I mean? So that's the pathway. And that's why I say that's the biggest opportunities. Of course, Google should make their own Gmail MCP server. They're a big company. That means they don't do anything. That means there's a lot of people pretending. There's a lot of busy bees buzzing, but there's no honey. Big companies are like this. They just like do a lot of useless work and then nothing happens. And so this is your great opportunity in DevRel. Create a great MCP server in really any product, and this should get you some opportunities. Abimbola, what's up?
Hello, can you hear me? I just want to confirm.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Good
can hear you.
afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon from here. I want to ask about two different questions, but I'll just keep it very. So, the first question is, I just want to like understand your personal, like your background in DevRel. How much of a coder were you? How much of a developer were you? When did you transition into DevRel? Then also in DevRel, what was like your, how do I put it? Your transition in DevRel. I'm very sure you didn't start with AI. So like, where did you start with? Where are you currently? Then also my second question, for someone that wants to go into AI, like you advised, for someone that wants to go into it, what are the necessary knowledge skill that is meant to like have to go into it? So
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me answer your second question first, because it's, I think, more applicable to everybody. Yeah, what skills are important to go into DevRel and AI DevRel? I think the most important skill is communication. Without a shadow of doubt, you have to be an excellent communicator. I studied communication, and it pays massive dividends, like enormous. You can't imagine the value of life, how life gets better when you're an excellent communicator. It's like, you know, many of you are African, so you'll maybe understand this. When you have huge muscles, like when you're a strong person physically, life's just easier, right? Like you can just do stuff. When you're an excellent communicator, it's exactly that, but mental and relational. Like you unlock a superpower, and the superpower takes you so extremely far in your career. Nobody tell me by reacting and with emoji reactions if you've heard this before. Thumbs up, thumbs down. And thumbs down if you've never heard this before. But like, I cannot understate the value of communication. It is the most valuable skill, period, that you need. And I don't just mean like be a decent communicator. This communication, the worst communication, is communication that is full of shit. Can I swear here? I don't, kick me if not. But like, has anyone been to San Francisco? Show me a hand emoji if you have. San Francisco is, what a place. There's so much bullshit. So much, it's unbelievable. Like there's many people who want to be Steve Jobs, who Steve Jobs himself didn't really have a lot of technical knowledge, but he could communicate very well. And there's a lot of people who want to be like that, who are building a lot of things, mostly castles in the air, but they talk with confidence, you know, and the problem is they don't have the knowledge to back up what they're saying. And so when I say be an excellent communicator, I mean speak well, but also know deeply that what you're speaking of. And this combination of like knowledge plus the ability to deliver that knowledge, wow, that you will go very, very far. You will be some CEO or something. I think that's so extremely important. In fact, some would say Steve Jobs didn't have a lot of technical knowledge, and he didn't, but he had a lot of knowledge about the business area. And you can see that in his presentations, right? And so I think, yeah, to answer your question, Abimbola, that like the skill is knowledge and communication. Knowledge isn't really a skill. You can go get knowledge from wherever you want, but communication is so unbelievably important. And the crazy thing is everyone learns this differently. So you've got to learn what's the best way for you personally to communicate with your style, with your personality. Some communicators that I look up to that I actually used in my case studies when I studied communication was, of course, the great Steve Jobs, but also Barack Obama, I think, is probably one of the greatest communicators of all time, and President Bill Clinton. was just a really great communicator as well. So Abhishek is asking, what's my advice to improve our communication? You can accomplish anything. You should maybe write this down or so. This is so important what I'm about to say. You can accomplish literally anything with enough attention and intention and effort. Those are the secret ingredients for accomplishing literally anything. Attention, intention, and effort. Attention, intent. So what does that mean? Well, if you want to be a better communicator, Abhishek, then pay attention. How often do you go through life? How often do you go through your day and you say a bunch of stuff, you communicate, but you're not paying attention to how you're communicating? It's passive, unfortunately, for the most of us. So step one, pay attention to how you're communicating. Step two, have an intention. I want to communicate clearly. That's so important. So many of us communicate unintentionally, right? We see that. Sometimes we have arguments and we maybe get angry and we yell at someone. And what do we say? We say, sorry, I wasn't thinking. You can also say, sorry, I was communicating without intent. I was passively communicating. I wasn't in the driver's seat of my communication. Does that make sense? And so attention, intention, and then effort, meaning put in actual effort to improve. That's really all it is. The specifics of it will depend on your personality. Some people really enjoy watching hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos and embodying what they see. Like I see this, I emulate it. Others prefer reading books. Others prefer having a physical person, hey, come with me, mentor me side by side every day, I'll pay you, right? So it really just depends. There's a great resource called Charisma on Command. It's a YouTube channel. I don't know if it's still going, but they have some great stuff where they look at celebrity interviews and dissect the sort of communication dynamics there. Charisma on Command. It's a pretty decent YouTube channel. I don't follow it, but I see some of the things they teach, and I think it's pretty decent. Hope that helps, Abhishek. Ngube, Precious. I'll just say Precious. Precious works as a community manager in an AI company, and your question is, where can we find developers who actually need and are actively using tools like these, tools specifically for building AI agents? That's a great question. Where can we find? But this is the heart of DevRel, right? Where can we find developers who need what we're building? This question, I think, highlights a problem in our industry where we often build solutions for problems nobody has. Because if somebody has the problem, then you will know them and you will know where they are. And so if you're wondering, hey, I have this great tool, but where are the developers for it? Maybe nobody wants it. And this is, I think, this discernment is very important with DevRel. I know a lot of companies that start and they think the founder thinks this is a great idea, but nobody wants it. And so they literally will hire people. They used to hire me to manufacture interest for this when nobody was interested. I think your best bet here, Precious, is instead of looking for where the developers are, just being as loud as possible. Just broadcast it far and wide. Hacker News, Medium, Dev2, X, Blue Sky, LinkedIn. Just this is available, this is available, this is available. They're just constant. Here's a demo with this thing that nobody cares about here, and just keep going at it until someone sees it. I think if you combine that with paid ads and just cast a really wide net, then you'll catch maybe 3 fish. It could be that you're fishing in very empty waters, unfortunately. Cursor is a great example, or ChatGPT. These tools have millions of users, but that's just because the water had a lot of fish in it. People actually wanted it, right? GitHub Copilot was not good enough in VS Code, and so someone said, we're going to make Cursor. And there was already a market for it. GitHub Copilot proved it. They literally put fish in the water. Does that make sense? I hope that helps. Abdul Kawi is asking, what would you recommend as a pathway to learn about the key technical aspects of AI and LLMs aside basic prompting and vibe coding as a whole? That's a great question, Abdul Kawi. The pathway, the premier pathway, the best pathway to learn about AI in 2025 is the episode about AI in 2025 on my podcast. That's why I made it. And I'm not here trying to get subscribers or whatever. I honestly don't care if any of you subscribe or not, but it's just the best resource. And I created it because nothing like this existed. I had exactly the same question, Abdul Kabi, and I was looking around. I was looking, for example, my friend Francesco Chula, he may have been on here. He creates great content. James Q. Quick, like all of these people create great content, but no one has created a pathway to learn about key technical aspects of AI. And so I made it. And so I can honestly say that that podcast episode is the best one. And you can listen to it on Spotify or Apple also. It doesn't have to be YouTube, but really it covers everything. It's like an hour and a half, but after you get this, you will know for sure all the things you need to know about AI. Okay, great. I think that's all the questions. Oh, Simon Sinek is amazing and has great content around intentional leadership. Hey, thanks, Jordana. That's awesome. Yeah, TED has great talks about communication as well. I actually gave a TEDx talk once. You may find that if you're lucky. It was 13 years ago, so your mileage may vary. Great. I want to open it up for any more questions. If not, I can show you some stuff about. Okay, cool. Thanks, Jordana.
Thank you. Thank you for all of the information. I have a question where you can focus it onto AI, but in tech in general. What's one thing that you think is very interesting or you're most excited about that's going on now or is happening?
Yeah, I think what's going. Thank you for that question, Jordana. I think what's really exciting is, when the internet was new, there was a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt. People literally said, "I will never put my credit card into some website because you don't know." And then there were lots of scams, and there was lots of stealing, but also there was a lot of adaptation, positive adaptation, right? We created security protocols, we created TLS encryption, we created all this beautiful software that exists now, where people just buy stuff on the internet regularly. Like we don't even, like at least where I live in Germany, we don't even think about it anymore. Like it's just like, oh, you need this? Go on Amazon. Like nobody even goes to retail stores anymore. It's really bad. Or maybe good, but we're in a similar stage with AI, right? Like now people literally will say, oh, I would never put my credit card into ChatGPT because so and so. It's the same, and we've come full circle, but not to the same vertical. We're like level up, but still the circle. Does it make sense? It's like a spiral staircase going up, and we're at the point in the timeline where the browser was just invented. And there's like security issues, or let's use another analogy, air travel. Yeah, like air travel in its infancy, commercial air travel was extremely dangerous, right? Like planes would just crash. And there was this one Pan Am Cathay Pacific case where like they collided with each other on the runway. Can you imagine how tragic, right? And so people used to be like, I will never fly with air travel and so on. Today, it's the safest way to travel on the planet. Like bicycles are like less safe than air travel. Walking on the street is less safe than an airplane. And so AI is unsafe. AI can hallucinate, but we're in this stage, we're in a very formative stage, and this excites me greatly because like the potential to build is enormous. It's absolutely enormous. You could be the person who creates a developer experience primitive that enables secure payments across all your across all your applications, period. Like right now, there is no answer. There's no answer. So MCP is an answer to allow AI applications to perform actions on your behalf. Like I said, like, hey, ChatGPT, book me a flight. I need to spend whatever. There is absolutely no standard for securely sharing your payment information with ChatGPT. It just doesn't exist. What does that mean if it doesn't exist? It means that each and every one of us in this call can build that. We could be that person. We could be a person that creates a revolutionary technology and changes the world. That's insane. That's where we are, and that excites me greatly. More practically, what excites me is all of the innovation around communication protocols with AI and otherwise. So we've talked a lot about model context protocol, but Google just released another protocol called A2A, or agent to agent, which they say is complementary to MCP. But if you look closely, it kind of rivals MCP. It's almost a competitor to MCP, and they say it's complementary. So I don't know what's going on there, but I know capitalism is involved, and that also excites me. Like let's watch this competition and see how, one, we can help it, but two, where opportunities are. I think I don't need to remind anyone about how much opportunity there was at the beginning of the internet. So like .com millionaires were a thing, right? Some guy decided, I want to make email, but with HTML, Hotmail. He just created Hotmail and became a billionaire. Mark Zuckerberg was like, bro, I want to connect with like all of this just happened because some guy wanted to build it. And AI is literally that early. And so that's what excites me. It's so early, and each and every one of us, there's like 32 people here. Literally everyone could be something extremely great and revolutionary. So that, I hope that answers your question, Jordana. There's just enormous potential. Ido is asking, do you see any issues if AI engineers don't have machine learning experience in the long run? No, I don't. I don't see any issues, but I see advantages to having machine learning experience, because again, just the more you know, the more capable you are, right? And so it's not going to limit you for sure, but if you know about machine learning, you're going to be able to go further. For example, I know about machine learning. I train my own models, and if, for example, I'm doing something and it gets too expensive, I just know immediately, okay, you know what, this is too expensive. I'm going to take an open source model, train it on my specific data. It's going to be a small model, and I'll host this, and it'll do the same work for like 1/10 of the cost. Like I can already do that because I know machine learning stuff. And so it gives you like extra abilities, but it's not going to like inhibit you, I don't think. Samuel is asking, what advice do you have for developers getting into the game in this era of AI? My advice is really just one word, and that is build. Just build, man. Build and build and build. We have just a few minutes left, and there's a question in the queue, but I want to share with you something that's extremely important. And this is that you can just do things. You can just, and I want to tell you a story because I think that's how we learn best. I have a family member who is just a complete loser, just an absolutely complete loser, who doesn't accomplish anything in his like in his life. Yeah, he's been building something for the past 30 years. Nothing has happened. I hope this is not live streamed, by the way, but nothing has happened. And like since I was 6 years old, hey, what are you building? Oh, I'm building this thing. 6 years old. When I was 15, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just building. 32 years old, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just building. Meanwhile, his wife has had to work extremely hard and support their family because the guy lives in a dreamland. And why am I telling you this? I spent a lot of time examining how someone can keep building something and never really go anywhere for 30 years. And the answer I found was, there's just fear. That's what it's just fear of like, hey, what if I build it and then it doesn't work, right? And so what's the solution to this fear? Okay, I'll just never finish building it. And then I don't get to face that painful outcome of failing, and then my life is better, right? And so you just delay it infinitely. I think this is poison. And I think the antidote, fear of success or fear of failure, it's what if, and then it holds you back. I think the antidote to this is ship. You ship early, you ship often. You don't give a ship if anyone uses it or not. You are independent of the outcome, and you just get it done and you ship it. And if it works, great, you're a billionaire maybe. If it doesn't work, guess what? You're a creative human being with creative ability. You can just make another thing. You're an infinite idea factory. You can just build things. And that's my advice to you. You asked for what advice, Samuel? You said, what advice do you have for developers getting into the game? Get over your fear and just build and ship. Do not stop. Do not delay. Ship something unfinished. Nobody cares. Take inspiration from Peter Levels or Levels.io. He ships like random bullshit that doesn't even look good, but gets him literally $40,000, $50,000 a month, right? Monetize early, build and ship, because that's the name of the game. Of course, people are going to hate it. People hate everything. People are ridiculous. Like everyone hates me for like random. Who cares? I just want to build, and I think that's the best advice for you. All right. There's more questions. What advice? Oh no, that was, I answered that one. Do you think any fallback should exist if the action taken by the agent is not up to mark? Yes, you as a developer should model that fallback. There's another question. Are AI-generated code secure? The answer is absolutely not. Use Sneak, SNYK. It's an extension that will highlight insecure code, and you'll find that the majority of code generated by AI is bad. And I expect you to be like, this is also a requirement for being a DevRel engineer. You have to know the truth so that you can silence the lies. And again, that comes again with the skill set of communication and knowledge. So I think we're at time. Abdul Kawi has one question. You had your hand up for a while. Abdul Kawi, I'll let you ask your question, and then we'll wrap up.
Yes, thank you so much. This is actually like my favorite space so far. I like how articulate you are. So my question is, it might sound cliche, but like, I wanted to ask, obviously a very good developer, how have you been able to manage the whole technical aspect and the non-technical aspect? Because I work as a community manager, right? And I realized that almost through last year, I didn't code as much. Like my technical aspect was lagging behind way too much. So, and this year I tried to pick it up and realized that my community aspect is almost dead. So like, how have you been able to pair up the two with creating content, you know, the podcast and every other thing basically?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And my answer is, what you do is you build and then you share. Another way of putting this is, so there's a developer advocate at Twilio, formerly I think named Tilde Thurium, who has this analogy of carving the turkey. So Americans for Thanksgiving, they celebrate killing a lot of people by cooking a big bird, a turkey, and they carve it, meaning they cut it into pieces after they cook it, ideally. And a huge bird like a turkey, you can carve into many small pieces. And this is the analogy that Tilly has, which is you create a turkey and then you carve it. Okay, what does creating a turkey mean? You use your technical ability to create something. If you're a community manager, I assume it's for a software tool. That's what DevRel is. And so if you're working on like a database, make an application that uses the database. That's your turkey, right? And so that's your technical ability. You're using it well, you're optimizing it, you're making it fast. Build something. That's your turkey. And then you carve it by showing it to the community in various modalities, like blog posts, videos, shorts, reels, Discord Q&As, mentorship sessions, whatever it may be. And that's how I typically balance. I will build something and then carve the turkey through content. And this helps kind of both sides. I hope that's helpful. I think we're at the end, so I do want to respect the time of the organizers here. I'll hand it back to Kenny or the host.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tejas. You touched on relationship at the beginning and how that is important for developer relations, because it's, developer relations. And I know you have very strong opinions on how that relationship is formed. Because some people sometimes want to do it to grow their network or to maybe get some kind of favor from someone. And I don't think that's the right way to go about it, right? And I want you to, just before you go, to kind of like talk about that a little bit more. I feel like that's an important part of why we're here, is how to be able to form meaningful relationships the right way, especially as in the professional side of things. Because you and I are friends. I didn't meet you trying to get a favor from you, and and by the way, if you don't know this is Tejas he always comes to this session to help DevRels. And all I have to do is I just send him a DM like, hey, can you come? And it's like, yeah, So I want to kind of like maybe get you to talk a little bit more about how early stage developer advocates can think about relationships in that way, as opposed to, getting favors from people.
Yeah. I might do something crazy to answer your question, which a lot of people will frown upon. But who cares? This will probably go very, very, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, because we're told not to mix these things that I'm about to talk about. But I am a person who believes the Bible. Okay, and I go with me on that. You don't have to. I'm not trying to convert anyone or whatever. But there's a story where there's this fisherman who is like struggling. His family's about to starve. He's like, I can't catch any fish. And that's how they used to eat like thousands of years ago. And so he's struggling. And then you have this dude, Jesus, who shows up and he's like, bro, like put your nets somewhere there, right? And he's like, he does it. He has no reason to believe this guy. Anyway, he does it. And he's like, whoa. And he caught like 1 million fish or something. And he says to him, Jesus does, he says, that's cool. You caught a bunch of fish, but if you follow me for a while, I'll show you how not to catch fish, but how to catch people, how to build relationships. And I was like, whoa. And so you continue to look at the life of this person, whether you're religious, whether you're not, I don't really care whether you believe in this or not. It's secondary. The point is, this is a historical figure that lived and was like the master of building meaningful relationships. No question. There is no disagreement about that across religious borders. So like across Islam, I've studied Islam. I grew up in Qatar, actually. Across Islam or Christianity or Judaism or even Buddhism or Hindu, like this person was just a master at creating great relationships. And so I take a lot of inspiration from him. And what does he say? Well, he says, hey, first of all, love God and your neighbor as yourself. Like just genuine, start there, just love people. You don't want anything from them. You don't value them based on how much money they bring or what they're going to do for you. You look at them and you go like, yo, that's a human being and they have a story and they come from somewhere and they're gonna die one day, but while they're alive, they're gonna have struggles. They're gonna have to put food on the table. And so you start from there, right? Like it's not just like a feeling of like, oh yes, I feel love for them because it's like, no, I'm invested in them. Like I want to tell me your name. Where do you work? What do you do? Is your job hard? Can I make it easier? Hey, I have a developer tool that will actually make your job easier. This is the journey of DevRels. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, your job sucks. I'm solving that problem in my job. Let me show you, right? It starts from there. It starts from like, you don't see people as opportunities or leverage. You see them as people and you try and make their life easier. There was a question earlier about this where you were talking about this product. You're like, where do I find developers? Yeah, here, it was by Precious. My question is, where can we find developers who actually need and are actively using tools like these? I don't know, but when you find them, it's going to matter a lot how you give them your tool, right? You could be like, hey, I don't have time to talk to you, but here's a tool, goodbye. That's not going to do what you want it to. That's not going to give them what they need. But if you see them as a human being struggling with the tool that you offer, the tool that makes agents easy, and you just see them as a human being and you engage with them as a human being, some would say if you love your neighbor as yourself, then they're more likely to actually feel like a human being and care about your product. I hope that helps. Another way of building great relationships is literally everything Jesus has said, just reading it and putting it into practice. For example, if you see someone struggling and you can help them, then help them. Don't think you're better than them. Don't think I'm, and so I think that's really it, is like looking people in the eye, seeing them at face value, and prioritizing their humanity and their identity over their money or their opportunity.
Thank you so much. I wanted to emphasize that because I think we've kind of talked about it a couple of times on the on these sessions, and I wanted someone else to kind of like shed some light on that. So thank you so much, Tejas, for coming through. We'll probably ping you again for the next cohort when the time comes. You can probably hop off now so we can stop taking all of your time and we can continue our conversations.
Great. Hey, thanks everyone. Take care.